A few weeks ago, a student at Avon Park High School was tested positive for COVID-19. The situation was handled professionally, as the student was quarantined as long as others they interacted with were quarantined as well, and the place was cleaned thoroughly. Despite this, it is important to remember that this is not yesterday's news, and that we should always keep in mind how the students feel about having COVID in their own building. And in fact, let's see one of their opinions now. 3, 2, 1. Alright, we have Scott Burrito here, a student at Avon Park High School. We're just going to ask you a few questions here to see what your opinions are on the recent cases at your school.
Okie dokie.
Alright, for the first question I have to ask you is, how do you feel about how long the school is going to remain open despite these cases? Do you think it will stay open, or do you think there'll be any changes?
I think at this point, it'll probably stay open. I mean, before the year started, I thought it wasn't going to last a month, but everybody seems to be doing better than I thought. And I mean, up to this point, obviously we had one case last week, but up to this point, we've been doing pretty well. And if it only stays to like one case or just like occasionally, and because the administration has seemed to like isolate it pretty well, quarantine however many people, if they keep it going like that, I think it'll probably stay open.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything that you would change about how the administration is handling COVID in the school?
I don't think there is much to change. I mean, obviously, all different schools in this area and just in general have different plans for this. But I think overall, I mean, wearing masks, doing temperature checks, there's not much else we can do besides that. Obviously, like if you're sick, don't come to school, get COVID tests, and just, I mean, follow the rules. I think it's been dealt with as best as it can.
All right. My next question is that have you seen any sort of activity at the school that would perhaps link to is there potential gatherings that could cause like another COVID case to pop up? Or have you seen anything like that at the school, or anything talked about like that at the school?
In school, I haven't. No, people have been wearing their masks. I mean, I've seen a couple people like with their noses out or whatever. But I mean, even if they are like gathering in groups, and it is hard to keep people like exactly 6 feet apart all the time. But for the most part, people have been wearing their masks. In school, outside of school, obviously there was like some whatever happened. I don't really know what the deal with that was, but a gathering of people, and obviously that's a problem. But I think that's where the biggest problems are gonna be is like whenever people just decide to, do whatever outside of school.
Now keep going on that. Do you think that if you had to take a hard guess, do you believe that the person who did get confirmed, do you believe it was probably an exterior activity or something, or they got it somewhere at the school?
I think it I think it definitely was an outside activity because in the school, I mean, things are so isolated. There's quite a bit of like structure to keep people apart. And even if they weren't being irresponsible outside, I mean, there's only so much you can do to prevent it. And even wearing a mask isn't like 100%. And people are going, I mean, in school, people are all kind of like doing the same thing in the same place. But outside of school, people still have to go about their lives and do, all their different things. So I definitely think that's where it came from. Just maybe, I don't know, out and about somewhere.
Yeah. Has COVID impeded your learning experience or your college experience this year?
I think it's changed it, not necessarily impeded. Definitely the college like process has been impeded, obviously, with like not being able to do like real tours and visits, and it's hard to get a sense of like from the tours that I have been on, it's hard to get a sense of what the college is actually going to be like, what life is, what it usually is like while this is going on. But as far as learning, as far as like high school stuff, it's been, I mean, about what you'd expect. I don't feel like I'm losing anything per se. It's definitely changed. But I think everybody's just trying to do their best, and I think it's been working out pretty well.
The next thing, and one of the last things I want to ask you is that do you think that in this school year, do you think things will situate back to normal in this school year?
I don't. Not normal as in like before COVID. I do think, I mean, scientists have said that there's probably going to be like a viable vaccine this winter or this spring.
Hmm.
And if that is able to get out, then that'll be a huge step. But even with that, I don't think, I mean, the masks and the social distancing and whatever, I think that's still going to stick around for at least like maybe another year or so. Because I just can't see this like disappearing just like that, like when the vaccine comes out. But I do definitely think that once the vaccine does come out, things can go back to a lot more normal. Like we won't have to be so hard pressed to be cautious.
Yeah. Hmm. Do you have any last comments about the school or the recent confirmed cases? Were you affected by it at all?
I wasn't personally, and I actually don't know. I know a couple people, not well. I know a couple people who were exposed and who had to like quarantine
Hmm.
and whatever. And at that point, I think that's pretty much to be expected because there's no way we're going to keep it perfect.
Hmm. Hmm.
But just in general, I think that overall, I mean, everybody's trying to do the best they can to keep the cases down. You know, obviously there's outliers and there's like parties outside of school, like recently,
Hmm.
which is stupid. But I guess there's only so much you can do, and I think it's been dealt with about as well as it can.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you for your time, Scott. I'll be back to with my partner for the rest of the story.
Thank you.